It's those things when they're unexpected. In 1999, River and Prairie Story Weavers did a celebration that somehow I was either in charge of or at least the co-host. We were at Penn Valley Community College, had partnered with the Girl Scouts, and we filled the Penn Valley Community College Theater, 235 seats, twice, two shows, and had a waiting list of people who wanted to buy tickets to get in. So naturally, we looked around for a larger venue. Steve Otto said, why don't we try the Gym Theater? It had just recently been opened. It's a 500 seat theater near 18th and Vine. They wanted a lot of money for their theater. But Steve can be relentless when he wants something, and he worked on them and he worked on them and he got them to cut the price down by 2/3. And we figured, okay, we won't lose money if we just fill the theater. So we sent everything out to Girl Scouts and eagerly awaited that year for celebration. The first show, we weren't able to use the main theater. We had a room upstairs. That was okay because we had 20 people. We figured everybody's waiting for the main show. And the time of the main show came, had 6 storytellers all prepped, ready to go. And we had a family of 4 show up. Mom, dad, and 2 children. 6 storytellers, 4 audience members, and the dad worked nights. So when he settled in his seat, he promptly fell asleep and snored. I was out in the foyer, literally hitting my head against pillars, going, how could I do this? And one of the storytellers, Coach and Ronnie, Coach came out and said, it's okay. We enjoy telling to each other also. But now I was panicking because we had the adult show that night. How are we going to do this? And for the adult show, we had a few people trickle in and a few people trickle in. We had 15, 20. When you have a 500 seat theater, 20 people doesn't look like a whole lot. And I'm standing out in front of the theater, and these 2 tourists from Germany come by, and they asked where the Blue Room was, which was half a block down from the Gym Theater. And I told them, oh, it's right over there, but it doesn't get lively for another 2 hours. Why don't you come in here? And put my arm around their shoulders and guided them into the storytelling show. I've always wondered what they thought as they were sitting there listening to somebody tell stories instead of hearing jazz played. Then there was the celebration at Oak Park Theater. We decided to downsize. Oak Park Theater is a theater in the round, a little black box theater. And I'm not a theater person. But we got the theater for the right price, free. That's always a good price for storytellers. And I was actually telling that year, and I was telling a serious story. There are no laughs in this story. A friend of mine had written it for me, and He's a good writer, but his words weren't mine. So it took me 13 months to adapt it to my words. The night of the show came. We had about 45, 50 people in the audience. They start, and all of a sudden, they drop the lights in the theater, turn the spotlight on, and then it was my turn to tell a story. And I walked up, and I could see maybe 2 feet in front of me. I could not see the audience. And like I said, there's no laughter in this story. And I'm telling it, letting it unwind, and I don't hear anything. I'm not getting any feedback. And I finally come to the ending of the story, and I told it the way I want it to. And I stood there, and it was silent. And at that moment, I thought, well, telling stories, that's a very short career for me, and started literally easing my way off the stage. Then all of a sudden, somebody clapped, and everybody else clapped. And I thought, okay, it's a pity clap, but I'll take it. And I'm leaving. And I was told by my wife, no, I had to stay for the refreshments after the show. And the strange thing happened. After the show, I had people come up and say, I really liked your story. It made me think. And it wasn't until several years later when I took a class by Lauren Nemi and Elizabeth Ellis about telling difficult stories that I realized what had happened. They say sometimes with difficult stories, people are still processing when you get to the end and you just have to wait. All I know is waiting for a minute to 2 minutes on the receiving end feels a whole lot longer than the people processing the story. And when I was first starting off, I was lucky. My daughter was in second grade. Her teacher found out that I told stories, and I was telling stories for free because I was learning. And her second grade teacher booked me in every month, which means I had to learn new stories every month. And I started to learn what stories work for second graders, what stories don't. And I was reading a book and I found a story that I thought was perfect for second graders. It was the matched mule story, where two brothers buy the mules, then get worried about what happens if one dies, and they start figuring out who owns which mule, and they measure, they weigh, they do all sorts of things until finally they measure from the tip of the nose to the tip of the tail, and sure enough, the black mule is 1 inch longer than the white mule. And I told that, and I heard a snort from the teacher, but every second grader just stood or just sat there staring at me. Finally, a hand went up. I said, yes. And the second grader got up, looked me dead in the eye, and said, Mr. Kuntz, that's stupid. I thought the teacher was going to hurt herself trying to suppress a laugh. She's a very good teacher because she knew that he meant no malice with it. He was just, second graders are very literal, and this was not a literal story. And so when things go wrong, every once in a while, I remember Chance getting up. Mr. Kuntz, that's stupid.